Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Oops 13th or 14th. I lost the count. 13th. Okay, it's a good omen number. Nothing will go wrong today. We'll see. So what is Oops? Oops is a community for people who are engaged. I would argue the hardest job in IT industry, incident response and incident management. And it's a place to have open and frank conversation about all the difficulties and messy details of incidents. They all are beautiful stories. A friend sometimes mentioned to me that I'm a disaster connoisseur because I love these disasters a lot. He's sitting here. I'm not going to say who is he. So that's the purpose of the community, peer learning, having an open and frank conversation about everything related to incident that is not talked about in open space, because frankly, when we're doing a really good job in incident management, no one notices it, but everyone will notice it when it doesn't go well. So we might as well be loud about it. This is our 13th event, and the only reason we can host this event is thanks to our sponsors who provide venue, drinks, food, and opportunity for us to get together. We have two sponsors today. One is Uptime Labs. You'll see a few people from Uptime Labs around. Who wants to do the introduction? I'll pick you, Greg.
You're from Uptime Labs.
Yes.
Okay. So Uptime Labs provides incident management simulations. Some say they're very immersive, they're very addictive. I'm just going to say, rather than me tell you about them, we have some of our customers today. Who's here? Who's a customer of Uptime Labs? Come on, Darren, Jamie, Suraj from IG. So IG, Trainline, Domino's. So if you want to know anything about Uptime Labs, talk to one of these guys. If they say anything wrong, come tell me about it. But,
you're actually eating one of our customers, Domino's. And our other sponsor, thanks to PagerDuty, who's hosting us today, Lee.
Good evening, everybody. So I have a couple of slides because we're hosting. I got to get a couple of slides. So Lee Fredericks.
You twisted my arm.
I hope it's relevant. So Lee Fredericks, I lead the solutions consulting team for PagerDuty and EMEA. Very excited to be hosting you all. We've been talking earlier. We've been working together for about 3.5 years now. It was pretty much as I joined PagerDuty. So really happy that we could take our turn to finally host. I think actually it's the first time we've hosted. So really excited to have you all here. A couple of logistics, as always. So if you need the Wi-Fi, you can use the WeWork guest Wi-Fi. Toilets are back through where you came in, just the first door on the right. There's also tea and coffee and everything else out there to help yourselves. If there were to be a emergency or a fire, through the door at the back there, all the way to the bottom and out into the rain. So I get one slide as sponsor. And I thought actually this is actually quite a nice slide for sort of framing this evening's discussion. So it's not too sort of PagerDuty pitchy, but when we talk to our customers about this topic, AI applied to incident management operations, it tends to fall into one of these three buckets. And you have to forgive the sort of PagerDuty terminology. This is how we refer to these three areas. But the first area, intelligent operations, is machine learning. So something I think we're all pretty familiar with. We, PagerDuty, and many of our sort of competitors and other companies out there have been doing this for a while, right? So this is about noise reduction. It's about routing a piece of work as quickly as possible to the right team so they can take action. So that's machine learning. And then in the middle, we've got Gen AI. So this is the idea of a Gen AI helper that's trained on your documentation, your runbooks, your past incidents, and you can have a natural language conversation with it, and it's going to help you to sort of steer through an incident and take the next best course of action. So that's Gen AI. And then finally, on the right-hand side, and this is where all the fuss and excitement is at the moment, of course, around agentic AI, right? Agents, autonomous agents. And this idea that you can actually have an agent take autonomous action, corrective action on your behalf. And obviously, you need to sort of start to feel about how comfortable you feel with those agents taking those actions for you, or whether you still want to have a human in the loop. So that's the three areas that we talk about. And of course, the one PagerDuty plug I will make here is that we do have GA functionality in all three of these areas. If that's something you'd like to know more about, come and find me or one of my team, and we'll have a chat with you over a beer at the end. The community people just gave me a couple of really quick slides. You don't need to be a customer. We have this community area called PagerDuty Commons. If you'd like to join it, go on there, have your questions answered. Open to all. As I say, you don't need to be a PagerDuty customer. If you like the idea of community and you want to present at one of our future community events, this is where you can also sign up to present your or register your topic or your presentation idea. And the final thing, and this one is just for PagerDuty customers, I'm afraid, but if you are a PagerDuty customer, we have our main event of the year, PagerDuty on Tour, takes place in March next month. A whole host of amazing speakers going to be turning up, customer speakers talking on our behalf. And we also have 4 free workshops there, 2 of which will be run by my team. If you'd like to register and take part in one of those workshops, again, we'd love to see you at PagerDuty on Tour next month. That's it. That's me. I'm going to pass back to Hamid, who's going to moderate our wonderful panel this evening.
Awesome. You know, Lee, when you said you're going to finish in 2 minutes, I didn't believe you, but well done. I was watching. Okay, so yep. My name is Hamid Silatani. I'm co-founder of Uptime Labs and will be moderating today's panel. One thing I do from the very first Oops is I was looking for people who during the Oops are managing live incidents, because incidents, they never happen in a good time. And so far, we always had one. And today, I'm so glad when I discovered that someone is dealing with a live incident. I'm not going to say who. If that person is interested, can raise hand. She is Holly. But that's part of the job. That tells you what of the nature of the incidents. Okay, great. So who do we have? I'll invite the panel to take a seat and introduce them. So please, Sarah, James, Andy, and Suraj. So today's conversation is about how AI is changing incident management and operations, but you can't have that conversation in isolation. I think we have to look at the bigger picture, and you can't get a good view on it if you don't involve the whole range of people that are involved in building software and managing software. So in our panel today, we have from old practitioners who grew to senior management position and decision makers. And we have people who are in the cold face of incidents right now, today, every day. And also vendors who are trying to bring AI, advantages of AI to our ecosystem. So that, I hope, will give us a rounded panel. So on that note, maybe we'll do a quick round of introduction. Sarah, start. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm currently a consultant, but my last full-time job was at the Financial Times, where I headed up the operations department, director of engineering for operations and reliability for 4 years. That was actually the first time I'd been in an operations team. I'd been a principal engineer before that, but I had so many opinions about how to handle operational incidents that I ended up effectively writing a job application. When the job became free, I got the job. So I learned a lot about incidents in quite a short space of time. I kind of miss it, but I don't miss waking up at 3:30 in the morning thinking, did I hear my phone go?
Thanks, Sarah. I'm Andy. So I am technology director at checkout.com. I'm also a chief of staff there as well. My background in incidents, really, we were talking about it earlier. I've worked for IBM, Reuters, which was Thomson Reuters, Blackstone, London Stock Exchange, kind of worked through and seen the changing face of incident management over the last sort of 20, 25 years or so. So moving into Checkout, I set up the incident management process there. We weren't using PagerDuty to start with, to be honest, but we moved to it fairly shortly after a couple of years. So I've got kind of a high level picture on the incident process. I'm a major incident manager. I know some of the guys here as well. And I also noticed some of our customers, checkout.com here, Trainline are here as well, right? Someone from Trainline, right? Awesome. Yeah, we just done a big deal with Trainline. Quite proud of that one. So,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm James. I am a consultant with PagerDuty, so I have a background in software consulting, both pre and post sales. So obviously not on the front line myself, but I do spend my days talking with a variety of organisations from all kind of backgrounds, large and small, different industry verticals, and helping them to improve their operations with a mind on how they can streamline their incident response, both from a tooling and process perspective.
Hi, my name is Suraj. I lead the incident and problem management team at IG Group. I have close to 13 years of experience in this field, managing problem, incident, in some cases NOC teams. I have worked for US Healthcare IT, US Telecom, and now in FinTech. So my teams looks after everything under the sun. I mean, we are part of product launches, we are part of projects. In IG, we are involved in anything where they don't have answers.
Great, thanks. One key skill, necessary skill of anyone in incident management is their adaptive capacity, being able to deal with uncertainty and surprises. So that happened to us today, just before this panel. We changed the presentation. I realized that I can't be sitting there, won't feel comfortable, so I'll be standing in front of the panel. But before we go to the questions and conversation with the panel, I think there's no question about AI is already changing the way we work, the way we build software, the way we operate software. Is no longer a matter of what will happen in future. We are in the middle of it. And I think it's a one in the lifetime, I call it opportunity. Other people may call it different things, to go through this phase. It's like industrial revolution, but 10 times faster and 10 times more impactful. And at the moment, we're going through this hazy phase of a lot of opportunities, a lot of promises. So we don't know how exactly will help us. Many experiments going on. So it's a very strange place to be, because you hear a lot of stories, but distinguishing what is a wish, what is a reality, is a very difficult aspect of it. So hopefully today we try to talk about some ground truth and actual use cases of AI that is happening, and build it from there. The other thing to bear in mind is we all, in one way or other, use AI. We have a view on how AI is helping us or not helping us, but in different contexts. And it's easy to conflate that, because then we start comparing our experiences, which are based in different contexts, and try to draw conclusions. So that's also a trap that we want to avoid. So in any points that we discuss today, I will, with help of panel, try to be very specific in terms of what is the context of that AI is used in. And my final point before going to the question is, I touched on it before. We can't just look at how AI is changing incident management without considering the bigger picture of how is it changing software engineering and how we build software. So all of that we need to bear in mind. On that note, question for audience: who here is no longer on call because of AI? No? Okay, that bit hasn't changed, so we still are all on call. But let's get some prediction from the panel. Let's think about 3 years ahead, and do you think that will be a reality or not? Sarah, you seem deep in thought, so I'll come to you last. Suraj, we'll start with you.
I think we'll still have people on call. Maybe the number of times you get a call would reduce because of AI, but you will still need people who need to look into stuff if something goes down or something breaks. That's my take on this.
Okay, great. James, you're actively working and innovating in this space. What is your vision
Yeah, no, I mean, I fully agree with what Suraj just said. I don't think you're ever going to have nobody who is on call, but I think the number of call outs are going to be reduced. I know one of the aims that we have at PagerDuty, despite the name, is to actually page people less and reduce the number of call outs as much as possible, so that when you are called out, it is a necessary call out rather than something that it frustrates you. But what I do think is also going to change is potentially the number of people on call, and when you are on call, the active times that you spent managing and responding and fixing things. So I think that will drastically improve over time. But are we going to get to a point where you don't need anyone on call? Maybe, but I don't think in the near term.
Okay, great. So, Andy?
Yeah, that was going to be my point. I think, I don't know if it's positive or negative. I think we will get to a point where yeah, we might not need people on call. I think we might. And if you just draw that kind of the thought experiment forward, like, okay, fine, we're pretty soon going to reduce the number of calls that you actually need to take, right? We're going to reduce that. And actually the next step is that when you do get called, then the solutions for that will be there for you. And you just make a decision about what path you want to take. And if you just draw that conclusion out, like, this stuff it's as bad as it's ever going to be, right? It's not getting worse. It's getting better and better and better. And I think the logical extension of it is that, like, that on-call piece is probably at some point in the future going away. When that happens, I don't know, right? Will you always want a human in the loop is another question. I think that depends on the risk appetite of the particular business. Like, if there's people's lives at stake or whatever, then yeah, potentially. But otherwise, if it's a risk decision, then maybe that's another thing. And also, as chief of staff, with my chief of staff hat on, I don't want to pay people for being on call, right? And that's that. I mean, on call for us costs millions of pounds every year. So we want to try and reduce some of that. So if we can make a risk-based decision to say, actually, we're getting a lot less calls, and when we do get called, actually, it's really not that serious, or then we can reduce our on-call budget as well. Okay. So I think, I don't know what the horizon is, but I think maybe, yeah.
You see it happening
at some point. I think so. I think this is the whole AI thing is more of a societal upheaval than we think it might be. In my mind, like, potentially, like, it's coming off a little bit at the moment. We're not seeing all the benefits realized that we want, but like I said, it's not getting any worse.
Yeah. So. Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, it's a beautiful picture you're drawing there, because
I'm curious to know why. Because do you think that because the less incidents
Thank you. Do you think you'll have less incidents because the code quality is better, or because the reaction is automated?
Because the reaction is automated. Like, honestly, AI generated code right now is like, it's an unpopular. It's pretty crap. Like, it generates a lot of noise in the code. Like AI code generation, like an AI IDE will generate. I mean, you're a developer, right? No, okay, that's okay. So AI IDEs tend to solve problems by throwing lines of code at things. So that's why you get this. Hang on a second. I could solve this problem in 200 lines of code, and the AI's churned out 200,000 because it's cheap for AI to generate lines of code. It's quick. Humans don't like doing lots of work, so they'll come to a quick and easy, like an easier solution to it. So I think that it's probably more at the moment. It'll be more that the response and the diagnosis of the issue will be much quicker, so that the human involvement will be a lot less. But in time, yeah, the code quality, I think, can be better as a result of this. So I think at some point in the future, and it isn't now, and I don't know what the timeline is, but AI will generate better code than people. But it's not yet, but not long.
That's interesting and beautiful future. Sarah?
So I don't agree because I think that you're going to get to the point where you can use AI to avoid having to go and read documentation or having to dig through loads of logs, because you'll have something that's able to say, here's the information I've found. Do you want to do this thing? I can't imagine people in the C-suite who are non-technologists being comfortable that an AI is going to make significant changes to a production environment. So I think there's going to be, the money might, be the teller there. I think there might be a thing where you stop paying every engineering team to be on call because actually you've got enough support that a single team can pretty much support all of the systems. They don't have to understand and have written the code. That would mean you didn't have as much on call. But I already think that in a well-functioning organization, pretty much every incident is novel and it's usually complicated. And it feels like, you may not, the AI won't have necessarily seen exactly this combination of things that is going to cause you a problem because you've got levels of resilience. It's the unique combination of all of them going wrong at the same time. And that would be my fear, that it would be difficult to fix those kinds of things.
That's a really great point. And we're not there yet, right? We're not there yet. But when we get to, AGI, right? Like generalized AI, that can then, and I don't think it's that far. Then those novel situations, those, what you're basically talking about is, having a huge set of data. Like we all know incidents aren't just caused by one thing. They're caused by like a Swiss cheese effect, right? Like you get this failed and that happened and that happened and that happened and that happened. That's what AI is good at. AI is good at finding signals in huge amounts of data. So I think that, and to your C-suite point, so I think the AI will be able to diagnose things quickly and it will be able to suggest solutions, or not necessarily solutions, but certainly mitigations quickly. And then you go to the C-suite and say, look, we can save you X, we can save you Y, and the risk is Z. Then we're not there yet. But I think in time, we probably will be, I think. And at some point, it's going to be the next level of AI, which is then the AGI is like AI with the same level of intelligence as a human, or the same experience as a human, or a group of humans. And then the next level would be where it can combine the sum of humans together to make decisions, right? And that, there's no reason why that shouldn't happen. And at that point, then things change again.
And I think going back to the question, it was for 3 years. And my response was not in 3 years for sure. Maybe in 10 years, 15 years. And you can do all the possible things about the knowns. So you took an example, anything which can be done by a human can be done by AI. What if it's not known to the human and it's not defined? So you have lots of legacy stuff. You have interdependencies. If you are a global organization, you have different requirements for different regions. So maybe there's something you don't know. And if you don't know, in most of the cases, AI might not know. And you need someone who can come online and define that, fix it, and maybe then in future, you can avoid that situation or a scenario. But in order to do that, someone has to come online, look into it, fix it, give that feedback, and avoid that in future using AI.
I mean, this question is so good that if we don't get to discuss any other question, we'll say, and I'm sure probably many people in the audience have strong opinions or ideas about, I take the stronger way, opinions. So it would be great to hear from audience. I knew you. Sorry, your name? Daniel.
So so what I wanted to say is that what I believe is that AI is not deterministic science. So incidents are scenarios where we haven't thought about, right? And we need something that analyzes the situation to solve. And just thinking about a stupid example, right? We reach a maximum replica so that a service cannot scale, right? AI, what decision can make is like to push the maximum replicas, change the settings and push further. But if we put the limitation on the autoscale system, which is a deterministic system, why we should remove the limitation to a not deterministic system, which is AI, which is quite dangerous. So I think AI is going to help on incident support in terms of analysis, what the root cause is. So if we take 1 hour to understand what the problem is and resolve, probably we can solve in 5 minutes. But ultimately, if today we are putting some limitation to already system that we have, such as autoscale, I don't see why we wouldn't trust a not deterministic system to do that, like not to have any limitations. So yeah, I don't believe on AI resolving problems, incidents. I believe AI analyzing them and speed up the problem, speed up the resolution, or eventually generate less page because maybe it's not urgent. Like today, everything is urgent. Instead, with AI, we can say, okay, this one can be dealt tomorrow when it's working hours rather than at 3 a.m.
Your view is there always will be need for human. Okay, great. Anyone else? Oh, come on.
Hiya. So the narrative that I've heard described is quite a common one, which is we're not there yet in terms of AGI, and the path that we can like feasibly see happen is that in the short term, kind of low complexity incidents might be dealt with quite effectively through AI, and we'll just be left with the difficult ones. But this leaves like there's a principle behind this called the leftover principle. Which poses the question, which is, if the humans aren't going to be solving the low complexity incidents, which are now being taken over by AI, how the heck are they going to be able to solve the really complex ones that the AI can't solve yet? So how do we face that challenge? How do we face the leftover principle?
So lucky that I'm not on the panel on this one. Who wants the microphone?
I think it's like all this becomes like a thought experiment, right? So firstly, Daniela, I wonder if you think that AI will ever get to the point of being as clever as a human, right? Because if we get to that point, then we can, if we can agree that a human can be as clever as, well, you, not me, obviously, because I'm not that clever, but as clever as you, then we probably can agree that with the right setup, it can solve the same problems as you, right? And then we go, well, if we can have an AI that's as clever as Daniela, then we can have an AI that's clever as 20 Danielas, right? We can start building and building and building. And then this leftover principle, you're right. How do we address that? I'm not sure. I genuinely think that this is not going to be, like, it's quite depressing, really. I'm not sure that this AI thing is going to work out great. Right? Like I'm really not sure. To your question, what will the humans do? I don't know. I think if we pursue this to its logical conclusion, either there'll be laws to say actually that we can't apply this technology in certain ways because it's too disruptive for society, or it will mean that a lot of people are working out different stuff, or that we will have 4 days holiday and 1 day programming the AI. I'm not sure. The leftover problem, it's an interesting one.
So I'm going to talk about actual software development, because I think there's been some interesting research recently that says, there are different patterns in the way that people work with AI to build code. And some people make sure that they're understanding it. They're interacting with it. So you've got people who are just like, whatever the AI gives me, I post it in. And if I get an error, I get it to fix it. And there are some people who are trying to make sure that they still understand the overall structure of that. And I think if you still have that, if the AI is telling you how it fixed things, it's telling you this stuff, and you're curious and you're that sort of person, I hope that you're going to go, okay, this is how it fixed that problem. Because I think we already do this when we're dealing with really complicated incidents. We're trying to think, well, what's it made up of? What are the various things that are happening? But I think people who don't have that curiosity when they're using stuff, who just want to get the job done, will struggle. I hope that people who are interested in, I want to understand how this thing is working, will do okay. But I have no evidence for it, apart from they have done this research. I think Anthropic did it actually, and they basically found that you can segment developers into how they use AI and how much they remember of what they did.
And I think you can use your lower environments to do that. So if something happened in production, right, it was fixed by AI, don't have AI in your lower environment, ask people to fix the same scenario in lower environments so that they have this fresh in memory and they are not out of touch of what exactly happened, how it was fixed. So without the consequences of an incident in production, you can actually test this in lower environment. And also in Uptime labs, you have different scenarios. You test your muscle memory. You test different possible ways of fixing it. It's fresh in your memory. And when that happens, actually, and let's say someone has to use the knowledge from those incidents which are fixed by AI, you can use that knowledge for the bigger ones. So we in IG, we have done these drills internally with all the developers, application support, incident managers. We'll do exactly the same situation. We will introduce the fault in some of the systems, and all the teams are supposed to find where exactly the problem is using the same steps which we do for production incidents. So that's how we kept that knowledge without actual incident in production. We are testing it. Everyone is aware what exactly happened. We have the same process of postmortem after the drill. We talk to everyone. We share the learnings and how we can get better at things if something happens in production.
Yeah, I just want to share a thought as well. I'm going to do a quick question. Hands up, anyone who programs in assembly language? So I think my guess, because everything's a guess right now, is that having seen the way these things move over sort of decades, a lot of this stuff is going to get abstracted away. So we used to have maybe 40, 50 years ago, if you took tech companies, there would be a reasonable chance you would have assembly language programmers, you'd have network programmers who program TCP. And today, the percentage of companies who actually have those people is incredibly small. We've effectively centralized all of those in the cloud hyperscalers. That's where that skill lives these days. No one else has a clue. And we just layer on top of that and are blind to what happens below. So my suspicion here is actually we will not look at code in 10 years' time. We will actually just be deliberately ignoring it because we'll have basically abstracted it away to a certain extent, and we will be focusing on different things and almost trying to direct it. Now, I'm not saying I like that. I'm not saying it's ideal, and there's a lot of reasons why it might not work. But one of the things I do one of the things that I find quite fascinating with this situation is there's a sort of an analogy to some business models where something like Facebook was possible or was popular because the more people you have using it, the more it attracts people because you have that network effect, that kind of what's called business network effect. And what we've got here with AI, we've got a technical solution which is a little bit different to some other technical solutions in that we've got AI basically on both sides of the table. We've got AI that's actually creating the code, creating the problems. And then we've got AI on the other side that's trying to troubleshoot the problems. And I think as much as AI might troubleshoot problems, as much as that might help us there, the AI on the other side, which is writing the code, is going to create more problems. So with all these big bosses, like we've had Davos and things recently, and famous people like Jamie Dimon standing up and saying, "Oh, if you want a job in the future, you have to be good at this, that, or troubleshooting, or be useful to some rich person." I think actually, if you want a job in the future, incident management is a great place to be.
There's always going to be problems to solve, right?
Yeah.
I think I totally agree. I think it's going to be completely abstracted away, and to the point of like I don't know. I can't remember if I was reading when they design computer chips now, there's no human that actually understands the guts of how that works. It's completely abstracted away, like assembler, 100%. So I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah. It'll be commoditized. To your point around AI creating the problems, that's the piece that I think that's where the human fits. We need to direct. You can have particularly where you've got now some of our guys are using agents to review their code and agents to review. You act as a senior software engineer and review this PR, that kind of stuff. That's where I get a bit worried about it. That's where we get the junk code coming in.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, but again, it's as bad as it's ever going to be. If we tell it not to do that, eventually it's going to get there. But we need to have a close handle on that.
Very interesting. So sounds like if you are in an incident management job, you have a bright future. I actually incidentally read an article last week that site reliability engineering will be a very, very popular job in future. Talking about future of incident management and software, and if AI can fix the issues, I did a little small experiment, ask various AI providers to just build a list of companies who are hiring the most SREs. Top of the list were Perplexity, OpenAI, and other giant LLM providers. So they they're hiring and paying top salaries for people who fix incidents. So I think if you are in this space, our jobs are probably safe and more in demand for some time. But James, you're from one of PagerDuty, one of the providers of incident management tool. What is PagerDuty's vision for future? I know there's a lot of guess and bets, but what you are betting on?
Yeah, so I think if you remember back to what Lee had up at the start, we had three kind of categories of AI and where we see it being used in incident management today, right? So we've got machine learning. It's been around in incident management for a very long time. We have generative AI, been around for a few years now, pretty well established. And the kind of newer kid on the block is agentic AI. And I think that's probably where, or the direction that this is headed at the moment. And, you know, we've obviously introducing agents into our platform. I think pretty much every software company today is introducing agents, whether they're using agents from vendors or building them themselves, homegrown tools. I'm speaking to a lot of customers at the moment, and they're going through this decision-making process of, well, where do we sit these agents? Do we use ones that are coming from the vendors? If we do so, should we be looking at agents that sit with the observability tools at that layer? Should we be looking at a tool like PagerDuty, which is slightly abstracted higher, or build ourselves? Or is it a combination of all those? And we're going to have agent-to-agent communication. So we need to think about how that's going to look in the future. But I think that's definitely the direction of travel. And when you think about AI agents that are going to help you troubleshoot a problem, an operational problem, it's actually a really good use case for AI, right? The risk-reward trade-off is great, right? If you have an agent helping you pull data, look through all of your alerts, your metrics, your traces, your logs, any other diagnostic check data that's been done, it's going to be able to distill that much faster than a human can, and then suggest some potential root causes and potentially even some mitigation steps that you can take. Now, if it's wrong, okay, you have to keep troubleshooting, and it might have cost you a few minutes, but at least you now know that what it suggested is ruled out. If it's right, then you've saved yourself potentially, I don't know, half an hour, depending on the situation. So it's a very good risk-reward profile. Yep. The next step from there is going to be, well, how much autonomy do you give agents to go beyond suggesting things? Do you give them autonomy to actually apply changes? Do you let them touch your infrastructure? I imagine the appetite there is going to be quite different depending on what industry you work in.
Makes sense. So I think the summary I get is long-term future could be bright, but you're going through a patchy path at the moment, a lot of uncertainty, and that could be very challenging because in this middle phase that we are now with AI stepping into software engineering and incident response, not only we need to know good engineering, but now we also need to learn something new, how to work with AI in this environment. It's yet another thing that we need to learn. Andy,
I was going to back up. Like we developed an agent which we call Sherlock that when we have an incident, the incident automatically gets created, automatically gets declared with PagerDuty, and Sherlock goes out and does, connects to Datadog, connects to AWS, connects to systems, and pulls a bunch of data back. So by the time the engineer's online, having been woken up at 3 a.m, in the Slack message there is a summary of the incident. All the relevant Datadog graphs are in the Slack channel and suggested courses of action. Yes. And also we're working on now including previous incidents and PIRs in there as suggested resolutions. And it's not much of a stretch to get to click here if you want to fail over to blue, right? And that kind of action is, once you get to that point, you go, oh yeah, we'll click to fail over to blue. Once you've done that a few times, you're going to go, should we just decide to fail over to blue?
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
Yeah.
I think that absolutely is going to happen. But it's that you start to get rid of the things that are pretty like, it's a failover would be something maybe you decide you trust, but there might be something else that like scale up to a certain amount you might trust. But I wanted to add something else, which I think that particularly if you've got the kind of organization where you want to have the people who built the code involved in incidents, you have a challenge always to explain to everyone what's involved. Yeah. So you've got an engineer that's in that. And I think having an AI agent that's there saying, it's time for you to send an update. Here's a draft update with a summary of everything that's been discussed that you can send to this. Or this actually looks like you should get the legal team involved because it's potentially got GDPR implications. That's going to save businesses a lot of pain and actually could be quite straightforward. And instead of thinking about how much training you need to run with people, you're giving them something that makes them feel relatively secure. And I've been talking about that with some clients. And I think it's a really great, I don't think you're going to have to go and read documentation about the process because you'll have something there that just reminds you what you should be doing. That's going to be really good.
That's amazing. I think it's a nice segue to the next question. So you identified that there are use cases, simple use cases with good level of certainty that we can benefit and we can, be less worried about how future could look like. And you were about to say something. I was
going to say that's a great point. I forgot to mention our Sherlock agent. Once the incident's mitigated, it will then go out and investigate quickly the impact of that incident in transactions. And it will then provide a summary of those. And you can also query it in natural language through Slack to say, what was the impact of this incident to Trainline in dollars in Estonia? You can do things like that and it'll come back and give you that. And it also says, if it's over a certain amount of money, this could be regulatory impacting. You need to call legal.
Great. Yeah. So we talked a lot about future. Let's get to the ground truth. But just before that, Holly, how's your incident going? It's good. Okay. That's the reality of today. We have to still fix incidents. So I'm really keen to hear from panel specific examples where you use AI today and how is it helping you and making difference, like things that you are doing, not things that you think it can be done. Suraj.
I think you rightly mentioned there are use cases for each scenario. So it's not one solution for everything, for every company. In my case, I'm personally, and my team is using AI for the bridges, for the ongoing chats to get a summary because you don't need 3 people doing all these tasks. So one is scribing everything, what's going on, one is running the bridge, one is sending communication. So it's all automated. So we use AI to get a summary of everything. And especially when lots of new people are getting added on the bridge, we don't have to spend time explaining what exactly happened. So there's a summary there in the chat. Look at it and, we can start working with those teams or on-call people straight away. The second thing is communication. If something goes wrong, everyone wants to be aware of what exactly happened and the turnaround time for communication. Sometimes it takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes to understand what exactly happened, what's the impact, especially if you are a global organization, you have regulators for each region. They want that information as quickly as possible so that they can report to regulators. So in IG, we use AI to get a summary, to use that information. Obviously, you have to review it if everything is correct or it's something which aligns with what you want and send that to stakeholders. Other use cases which we are exploring, and today I had a call around this. When you have lots of legacy applications, lots of dependencies between applications, and it's not documented, what will you do? And it's very, very critical in that moment to get that information and plan next actions. So we are using AI to get an overview of all the dependencies in our applications, whether it's legacy, new, which region is using it, and it is already helping us. It helps with regulators as well. In many cases, you have lots of compliance issues. A client said, I couldn't get this price or I couldn't get this view of the charts. We can use that to have a response drafted for the regulators, which takes a lot of time, which used to take a lot of time, where 10 different teams who manage 10 different areas needs to give that input. And then we have to work on it. It's happening on the go now because we have the dependency mapping. We know what are the concerns. We can use AI to get the logs. And that way it helps. And also, personally, I use AI Copilot in Teams to get any data of something similar which happened. Maybe you don't remember. You have to go to your ticketing tool. You have to look at your chats, emails to see, hey, something happened 6 months back, which was something similar. You don't have to waste time on that. I just do a quick search. My team will do a quick search. They'll find all that information. The last post-mortem report or the post-incident review, you'll get that information. You know what was the root cause, what action. So immediately you can connect the dots, define the actions, and get that resolved. And obviously the MTTR would be less in this case. So these are the use cases which we are using, and we can see good results. And we are exploring other options for AI, which can help us with the entire process.
Okay, great. So you're using AI to do some of the chores, finding information for you, which will be time consuming. On drafting communications, you mentioned that you still have to review it.
Yes.
So that review, is it now taking longer because you don't know what information AI pulled together and then you have to verify those information? Or
it's mostly around what exactly should be written. There's so much information in the bridge, on bridge, or in the chat. What should be taken from it and what should be going out? Because sometimes, let's say we say 3,000, someone mentioned we have 2,000 clients affected somewhere and it will come up in the impact, but actually it was corrected somewhere. It was not 2,000, it was 200 or 20. Maybe the initial assumption was it was 2,000, but you know it's 20. So you need to review that before it goes out. Obviously, there's a lot of work. You can build an AI agent. We have a dedicated template, the way we want to send that information to our management, to our stakeholders and the client-facing teams who will use that information and put that into their own template. But I think to review what exactly is coming out of that is still a work in progress, and maybe over time we'll get better at it.
So you still have to verify information and make sure facts correct. Yeah. Okay, great. And you were about to.
I was going to say I've got another. That's really cool. So that's I would love us to be able to start drafting PIRs properly in using AI and being able to write comms in AI as well. We do some of it, but you're right. Like we need to check it out. Example of AI being used. We're using it to make money and to make our customers money as well, right? So last year, our intelligent acceptance product optimized several billion transactions throughout the year and enabled our merchants to collect tens of billions more revenue than they otherwise would have. And what the product does is it uses AI ML to analyze the acceptance rate of transactions when they go through. So that's when we send the payload to the card scheme from the merchant. When we send that payload, there's a chance that the card scheme will reject it and say, no, that's for whatever reason, be it fraud, reject, or risk reject, or whatever. There's a risk that they'll reject it. And what we do is we use an amalgam of all of our merchants' acceptance rates and past acceptances and like different combinations of stuff. And I'll give you an example about this. Sometimes if you submit the transaction in France with an issuer that's in Germany using a Visa card for a transaction that's with an online pharmacy, it's better not to capitalize the address of the address of the cardholder. Yeah. Or it's better not to include their postcode, or you should leave the country code off the phone number. Ridiculous stuff like that. And you can imagine the number of different combinations of optimizations there, which is just like pretty much endless and constantly evolving in real time as things change. So our tool will optimize those transactions for you, get you a bit on your acceptance rate, which translates to, can translate to millions of dollars in your business. So that's a real live example of us using AI over the last couple of years to create something that gives us real business value and our merchants business value as well.
That's a great example. And in terms of
Trainline, we're doing that for you as well. I think we are doing that for you.
Does that? I actually don't know. I'm not part of. I don't know that part of the business very well. Do you want to
So yeah, I completely understand that example from knowing vaguely about our part of the business in that space, but I don't know it in great detail. But I'm genuinely very curious. Does all of that, all those permutations of knowledge, all those permutations of payments, do they become your intellectual property, or are they out?
That's our secret sauce, man. Yeah.
Right, okay, so that's not like whatever AI you're using, you're making sure that's sandboxed.
That's what you're paying for.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
You can report that back. It's safe there. And so in software development and operations, do you have any use cases that it has increased productivity, or still exploring?
Very much
both
right. Like in software development, our development team. So we've got about 600 devs. The vast majority of them are using it in one way or another to increase their productivity. Found out the other day that one of our most senior devs, senior principal engineer, was like, "No, I don't use it." Right, and I think that's where we're at the moment. This guy's not going to make him any better. Right, our graduates are insanely better than they would otherwise be. Our junior engineers are way more productive and way more able to contribute. So it's an enabler for that entry level at this point, I think.
Yep.
Like, again, I said it before, it's as bad as it's ever going to get. It's only getting better. All these problems around lines of code and junk code and all that kind of stuff, I genuinely believe that we're going to get through those pretty quickly. Right. But so everyone's adopted it. Has it made us any quicker? One of my big frustrations with all the AI, like Windsurf and Cursor and Copilot and all this, they're completely focused on like giving the dev a really good experience and getting them to generate more code, and they give zero productivity metrics around it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how do I know that this is making me any better? Literally no way, and we're struggling to measure that.
Have you ever seen a productivity metric for software that actually works?
that's it. Lines of code, right? Huh.
Yeah. But that's definitely improving.
A decent one, which I thought of today, which is reducing lines of code.
That's a good one.
That should be a good one, right? Like, if you can cut the lines of code down, then we should. Productivity in software development is going to be for us, it's a number of different data points across the spectrum, like 50, 60 different data points, and it's different for different teams. Like, if it's greenfield, or if it's a legacy code base, or what language they're programming, it's all different. So I think it's really hard to homogenize that across the board, but like, there are ways of doing it. And like, honestly, lines of code is one of them. It's a crap one in isolation, but when you start adding it as a constellation of, in the constellation of everything else, then you can get something useful out of it in terms of productivity. But I like the IDE people, like, they're not interested in that. As far as I can tell, they just say
fewer lines of code is a better.
I just think if you can solve a problem in a simpler way, that's better, right? And I think
I just wanted to check, because it used to be lines of code as in the more lines
absolutely.
Of code,
I was being facetious about it, right? because it takes a human longer to generate lines of code, therefore they must be working harder, whereas an AI can just generate lines of code, like. So it's not a good metric in that sense, but
maybe one of the metrics can be less number of incidents.
So 100%, like, there's lots of things that can impact. And that is definitely one of those metrics that we use, which is change failure, right? So it's a key one.
Great. Sarah, you must be working with many different.
A couple of things. It's more in the software development side of things where I think AI is going to be really useful, because I don't know whether it's really speeding up people. Some people think they're being sped up, maybe they're not. But I think there are two things that are really good. The first thing is dealing with tech debt, like we need to upgrade the libraries we've got in this particular project. So you'll have code that's not been updated in several years, and it's got really old versions of the libraries. And I saw one of my clients post in Slack recently to say, I just did this upgrade and it took half a day and it would have taken me a week before. And if that becomes something that's easy, you start to get more regularly people dealing with vulnerabilities and needing to update stuff. That would be brilliant. The second thing that I think is amazing, because it doesn't matter what it looks like, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not production code, is the kind of one-shot tools that you can create. So I was just doing a review of, this is a really trivial example, submissions for a conference, and it came to me in a spreadsheet with hundreds of lines and hundreds of columns, and my eyes were just going weird. So in 10 minutes, I created a viewer that would just show me each talk one at a time in a way that I could take it in. I'm never going to use it again. I don't care what color it is. I don't care how wide it is. It totally let me do a job. And I think those kind of internal tools, I can imagine doing that for all kinds of tools you have for operations or you have for development, where you just want to do a thing and then throw it away and never look at it again. That is going to be, suddenly those are things that you could just think about doing. And this is why loads of people who are in the kind of management track are really excited, because they get to solve little problems quite easily that no one was ever going to put on a backlog. So I think I'm really excited about these kinds of things. I think they're going to be
very
great.
interesting observation.
Can I share one thing?
Yes.
Which is about the application of AI. So I was at a dinner with like a roundtable thing with some people that were way more senior than me about 3 or 4 months ago. I don't know why I was there. And there was a guy there from GE Healthcare, and basically the same question was asked. Go around the table, tell us how you're making money out of AI. We went round, I told my fancy example about AR and how we make $10 billion, blah, blah, and everyone went round, and the guy from Tesco's was there and he was telling us about this. And the guy from Apple UK was there. And the guy from GE Healthcare went, look, honestly, guys, I'm going to give you a really cool example, and it's a bit different. His example was this. They sell a really expensive CAT scanner. Right. And their engineer had been to the hospital somewhere. And while he was there doing a software upgrade, this was the middle of last year, he was doing a software upgrade in their CAT scan. And as he was there, there was a young lad there who had I can't remember what was wrong with him, but he was had a disorder that he was really fidgety, and I can't remember what it was now, really, really bad. But he was like on the spectrum, and he couldn't sit still, and they couldn't get a CAT scan of his brain. And he had to be in this CAT scanner for like 40 minutes. And it was so difficult for him, and he hated it. And it was just a horrible experience for this kid and his parents. And the guy was able to go back a few months later and he said, hey, we've got this new AI interpretation piece on it. And they were able to flash the firmware on the software on the CAT scanner that made it such that it would the AI would interpret the images and pull out all of the good images they had, amalgamate them, and form a picture. And the kid was in there for like 40 seconds. Right. And that was all they needed. So that application of AI was and I was like, okay, that's really, really cool. Like, well, out of all the examples I've heard, that experience there, changing that kid's life and the way that he experienced it I thought was a really powerful use of it.
Amazing. Thanks, Andy. You made my job easier. I was trying to finish with a powerful story and a high note, but I think that example sums it up. We have about 1 minute, 30 seconds left for questions from audience.
Just a really quick observation. I think a lot of companies have a gulf of difference of opinion between management and the rest of the company as to the utilization and the efficiency and benefit of AI. And I think what you touched on is actually really important. If you have management who are, first of all, drinking the Kool-Aid, but secondly, one-shotting tasks and getting some joy out of that, that's a very different experience to the rest of the organization that are trying to bring this into processes and long-term life cycle movements, which require actually a lot more thinking across a lot more teams. And I think that's part of the problem that we have at the moment.
Thanks, Jamie. Any other comments or question from audience? Rob?
Very interesting commentary from you all. I was particularly interested to hear who was saying I and we when Hamid was asking the question about your experiences, because what I generally find is the people that are more skeptical about AI are the people that aren't actually using it hands-on themselves, whereas the people that have actual experience trust it more because they've got more experience with it. And I'll just put one comment out there. What's the first thing you do to any new hire that starts in a company? There's compliance training and courses that they have to go through, often before you even get given a log-on to be able to get into your source code, log on to your systems. And if people treat AI in the same fashion and give them that information and give them that compliance framework, then you'll find you actually get much better results when you tell the AI what their limitations are, what they're allowed to do, rather than just letting them loose. I personally am one of these people that think we're not far from AGI. I think there's a very close precipice coming, but it still needs people to use it responsibly and not just let it loose. Open claw.
Thanks, Rob. Any other comments, questions? Luke?
Yeah, let's put some maybe metrics on the code discussions. An awful lot of software development lifecycle stuff going on. I think Reuters reported on it. Meter did a study last year saying that seniors taking on code assistants were slowed down by about 19%. Juniors were accelerated by something in the 20s. So it's almost like an even shove each direction. But the thing that I think a lot of people don't think about is the juniors might speed up in terms of they can build out their skeletons, stub out their code a lot more quickly. But somebody has to code review what they produce. And then they've got a lot more slop to review. So the seniors are going to have the same issue to deal with when the volume of code coming from the juniors anyway. But I do think that the use case is the interesting thing in going away from just the immediate CTO fodder. Let's do SDLC. It's not the right choice, I think, for a lot of people to start with. I think knowledge surfacing, semantic discovery, these things are much more effective and actually I think what Sarah was saying about the ability to draw out the information, the insights into what if you can put a semantic view against the entities in your system, you can do an awful lot to allow an AI to help surface insight and information. I think that's probably where I want to look in the future, in the near future anyway.
That's making me think.
Great point. Thanks.
Something that I think is really interesting is that all the things that you should be doing to do good software development help AIs. So having good specifications, having tests, having documentation, having the ability to trace the dependencies, well-structured code, all of these things that would help people would also help AIs. And I wonder if it will be finally people will do some of these things because the only way to get the value out of the AI is to do this. Then that would be interesting. But like TDD and small changes and all of this stuff is like the way to get good value out of working with an AI is not to do one big pull request with many, many thousands of lines of code because no one can review it. That's always been a bad thing. It's a particularly bad thing when no one understands it. No one actually wrote it either. So no one understands it.
Okay, time to move to the second question. Joking. We're done with the panel. Thank you very much, Sarah, Andy, James, and Suraj, and audience. It was very live engagement and good conversation. I certainly learned quite a lot of things. I think if I want to sum it up, overall view is positive. Future is going to be better. We don't know initially it's in helping juniors more or senior engineers more. Still, I think one fair view I think we can save is certainly for midterm future, incident management, SRE jobs are safe, probably needed more. Human is required to be on incidents. I think no one argued that in a span of a few years' time, incidents will go away. So we're pretty safe there. PagerDuty, you have a business. But it's still a lot of uncertainty. So it's a space that everyone watches closely. We are watching closely from our perspective. How human and AI agents working together is really interesting, especially in incident response. So simulating that and letting people practice in it is important. Thank you, everyone. Let's put your hands together for the panel.